Commission payouts are getting increasingly and insanely complex, mainly so that the employer, yours or somebody else's employer, can save money. So make sure you understand how you get paid, on what you get paid, and when you get paid before you say yes to a new offer to join a new organization. What's up, SE Nation? My name is Ramzi Marjaba. I've been in the sales world for over 10 years now, and I've been coaching SEs for close to 5 years. One of the topics we discuss when they're about to get an offer is like, hey, my OTE is $3 billion, but do you actually get paid that? Is there a chance of you making that money? And if you do get paid, how do you get paid? Commissions are getting complex for no good reason. Well, no good reason from my perspective. The company who's paying out is saving money.
He's a greedy bastard. It's a species trait.
So let's talk about that for a quick second. Now, in this graph, we have the most simple payout structure. Basically, for every 1% of quota you attain, you make 1% of commission. So if your commission is $100,000, that's an example. I don't think that's realistic, but it's an example. And your quota, and you sold 1% of your quota, you make 1% of that $100,000. And it keeps going that linear fashion all the way to 100%, at which point you hit some accelerators. That changes from company to company. Some companies have accelerators once you hit the special mark of like 140, 150, 160, I don't know what it is, depending on the company. So this is an easy payout. And that means I'm getting paid for everything that I sell. Some companies like to do something like this. As long as you're under 60% of quota, so I'm going to zoom in here. This is a fun one. As long as you're under 60% of quota, you're going to get paid half of your commission. So 60% of quota, I'm getting paid 30% of my commission. Whereas at 60% of my quota in the previous one, green line, you're getting paid 60% of your commission. It's 1-to-1. Here at half. And then when you exceed 60%, now you're getting paid at an accelerated rate. But as you can see, it's still less than what you would have made at the 1-to-1 ratio until you hit 100%. So as long as you're not hitting quota, the company's saving money on failure. The company's still making their money. So let's say your quota is $1 million, and you sold $599,000. The company still made $599,000. You are making half of what you would have made elsewhere. And that's how they save money. And some other companies even do it like this, where you get paid nothing until you hit 50%, and then you have the accelerators all the way up to 100%. In some companies, when I talk to CROs, their response is, well, you're supposed to hit at least 50 or 60% of your quota anyways. So we're not going to reward you for doing what you're supposed to do. Here's the thing. Me as an SE or even a salesperson, I do not control my quota. That quota is given to me from someone up high. That's issue number one. And issue number two, I already mentioned. If I sold 60% of my quota, let's say it's $1 million, I sold $600,000 of that quota. The company is making the full $600,000. I am making less of that. I'm making 50% of that, or 50% of whatever the commission would have been in a 1-to-1 situations. 30% of what I would have gotten paid otherwise. And the SEs are making even less because they're less leveraged. So if you have a high base, that's no problem. That's great. But still, you're basically getting de-incentivized to sell. Because if my quota, let's say my quota, this actually happened, conversation happened. My boss gave me a quota and I told him, I'm only going to get half of that. Basically, gotten paid nothing. And both myself and my boss agreed that the quota is double what it should have been, or double what is attainable. So for that period of time, I got paid nothing. Luckily, it was a quarter. I had a quota for a quarter instead of the half, which was usually something we get. And that's something else to discuss. Do you get the quota annually? Do you get the quota semi-annually, so every 6 months, or quarterly? Or is there monthly quota like you're an SMB SDR? Is there a quarterly quota or a monthly quota? I prefer the annual quota. It's just so much easier and I don't have to worry about hitting. It's easier for me. That's just my personal opinion. So I'm not going to go too much into that, but that's what I prefer. So that's something to think about when you're about to sign on for a new gig as an SE or even sales for that matter. And this another thing they say, well, if you hit 100%, you're getting paid the same amount. But then again, everything else is less. This is an actual conversation I had with the CRO. He was a friend of mine, so I was able to actually be very blunt and call him out. But he stuck to his guns. That's what he thought. So their comment is, well, we want to incentivize salespeople to sell. And my comment, this is a conversation, as you can see. My comment was, I don't know a single salesperson who doesn't want to sell. That's why they're a salesperson. They could have been anything else. Salesperson is not many people like, the only reason people become sales is to make money. Otherwise, there's nothing else that would draw people in. You're not learning new technologies. It's not fun. I mean, you get to drink and do all that stuff, but if you're not making money, if you're not selling, you're probably going to be out of a job soon anyways. So there's that. And that's why there's a lot of churn for salespeople, by the way. And that's why a salesperson has a good year where they made 200% of quota. If that ever happens, well, I'm sure it happens. They know the next year they're going to get screwed with their quota. And that means because they're going to get screwed, like what happened to me, where they gave me double the actual attainable amount, I had no incentive to sell. I could have just collected and made sure all that sales, whatever sales I could push out, I was incentivized to wait and not sell so that I can hit my quota the next half because I wasn't going to get paid for this half anyways. And they would say, oh, well, that's unethical. Well, that's the way you incentivize people. People do what they're incentivized to do. That's effectively how you're incentivizing people. So just keep that in mind when you're applying for a new job. Now, the second question is what you get paid out on. If you want to keep it simple, which is what I like, everything. Everything you're involved in, everything that you sell, you get paid out on. But now there's a lot of buzzwords where you only get paid on upsell or cross-sell or new logos or renewals, or you don't get paid on renewals. So all these little things that confuse things. Or you get even worse. You get paid a certain accelerator or a certain rate for new logos and another rate for cross-sell and a less rate for upsell. Things are just getting nuts. And basically we need a PhD in math to be able to figure out how much our payout is going to be. My company has an entire spreadsheet to help us figure that out, and it's still not accurate. So, and then the last thing is when you get paid out. And that changes if you're selling hardware or software. I've worked for 2 companies that sell hardware. One company pays out on revenue recognition. And that means when they actually ship the hardware. And that's when they recognize revenue. It's not necessarily when the customer pays, but it's when they recognize revenue or they send out the invoice. And another company pays out on booking. Some company pays out on revenue, like the month after whatever they recognize the revenue or on booking. And sometimes companies take 2 months. Some companies pay out once a quarter. Some companies pay out once a year. These are all things you need to figure out before you say yes to a job. And that's it for me. If you're interested in learning what a great SE looks like, click this square thingamajig. And here's a playlist of all the podcasts that I've done in the past, or at least most of them. Check it out. If you need help, check out the SE hotline. The link is in the description below. And now get back to work.